This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 21st of February 2020 and I am 2J.
I'm Tom.
And I am DM. Let's take a look at today's headlines. On the Daily Nation, policeman at Ruto officers found dead. The Star, why Mafia could have killed Oko. And finally, The Standard, the fraud who sat in cabinet. Where shall we start?
I think we need to start with the biggest news of the day.
Oh yes, absolutely. Policeman at Ruto offices found dead.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, unfortunately, cops found a body of one, what's his name again? John Kipiegon Kenei, who was security officer at Harambee House Annex.
Yeah.
They found his body. They found him dead. And they found him with a bullet hole that apparently had entered through here, exited through his head. And he was lying on the floor, and the pistol right there.
Yeah.
And this to me is, when I had the news, I got some chills.
Yeah.
All right? Because what are the odds? You needed to write a statement, a DCI, and then 2 days before that, you know,
you're found dead. Yeah.
Did you get chills because it looks like it was a staged suicide?
Yes. You see, look, this guy apparently lived in an extension of a house.
An SQ.
An SQ.
It was, yeah.
If at all, and the pistol that they found is called a Jericho pistol. Now, you should go to YouTube and listen to how a Jericho pistol
Very
sounds
loud.
like. It's a loud weapon. There is no way this guy would have shot himself without anyone
hearing it,
and hearing it.
And they say the door of his house was left open for 2 days.
For about 2 days.
That makes no sense. How did the landlord, one, you're saying, not hear it, and then two, not see that the door is open and he's not...
Or even the neighbors. And it's something so... I have a feeling things are getting nasty.
Yeah.
They are. I think they already have. And I hope this is the last of... death headlines as regards this case, because it's a very bad direction.
The very strange thing is that initially I would have thought this is the most unexpected turn that this story could have taken. However, knowing the people who are involved in this, if you ask that question, cui bono, who benefits?
Who benefits from
it
this?
might have been one possible, route to take in order for whoever's benefiting from this to get that, ended, or that conclusion at the end.
Yes. I must say I am not an investigator. I have never trained as a cop. I'm not an intelligence officer. But you need to use some reason. If this body stayed for that long, 2 days, apparently, according to what the media and the cops say, then it tells you this was not what the cops claim.
And with that very heavy headline, we do have a three-part criteria that we use to analyze the headlines for you. We ask, is the headline topical or speculative? Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And finally, is it thoughtful or lazy? I think this is both topical and
I take
thoughtful.
issue with the headline though, the use of the word at. Policeman at Ruto offices found dead. I think it should have been policeman from Ruto offices found dead, because this suggests that he was found dead in the Harambee House Annex.
Maybe they just changed it for a shorter word.
I think it's misleading. It's very misleading.
Good point. Good point.
No, that's a good point, because it suggests that he was found dead
at Ruto's office. Fantastic. Yeah.
The same, and on the same story.
So violent.
The same arms scandal. The Standard is talking about the fraud who sat in cabinet, and the fraud happens to be a Chesa. So the Standard begins with a descriptive narrative, a description of a Chesa. They say he's, first of all, fabulously wealthy and inexplicably so. He's a hot-tempered showman, and people who knew him when he was growing up are certain that he has never stepped into a secondary school classroom.
I would believe that.
And then they go on to give some quotable quotes of Echesas, just demonstrating his verbal recklessness, I suppose. I'll read one. This he was addressing to Raila at a rally. I am not your equal. The president was not stupid to appoint me. He knew the country has professors, but I was still appointed. And then the Standard goes on to deliver an indictment on his appointment as cabinet secretary. First, they say that He allegedly left, when he was Cabinet Secretary of Sports and Culture, he allegedly left the running of the ministry to the PS. He was the ambassador, Kaberia.
Yeah.
But the Standard also gives its opinion and says, which was a good thing because he would have been incompetent anyway, and probably did not know the other departments that were under the Ministry of Sports. Yeah. And then the other thing they said is that he never made contributions when they were sitting in cabinet. Yeah. And sometimes when the president called upon him to
make remarks,
speak, the other cabinet secretaries would nudge each other and stifle laughter and giggle.
Can you imagine your peers looking at you in that way?
Oh my God.
So, well, in short, they're just describing him as a buffoon and just describing the buffoonery that was taking place when he was cabinet secretary, and they're asking the question, how did he
make it?
How did he get there?
Appointed.
They're also saying that he's been linked to many scandals in the past, including the seizure of foreign currency in Kiambu. Remember that story? He was linked to it, and also the photoshopping of Cleophas Malala, the scandalous photo of that senator. Yeah. But there's an important question that the Standard poses at the end of this article. They're asking, could Kenyans be witnessing the end of Sonkonization? And they're saying all these politicians, the characters that are very flashy and reckless
and possibly
and violent,
unqualified. Yeah,
we are seeing their downfall in the past few months.
But I think the only time that will happen is if Kenyans take seriously the people who we have to represent us. I don't know if Kenyans, people are still supporting Sonko, no?
Guys, and I'm one of them. Look, you see, this man, in my view, is talented. If you dropped out, as it is said, he dropped out in class 3, and he became a minister.
The question is, he's a talented what? A talented crook?
I mean, whatever he is, he has gotten to a ministerial position.
The question is, because that is very different from, is he talented in governance? Because you can be talented in scaling up, you can get
with
there.
What 2M is saying.
Guys,
I agree as
you
well.
have to give the man props for being a class 3 dropout, making it all the way to the highest point of government.
I agree with that.
Let me tell you, and I actually think this. Maybe what Uhuru Kenyatta should have done when he appointed him as cabinet minister is play the role is to mimic Moi, with the way Moi played the role when he had characters like Mulu Mutisia or Kariuki Chotara. I keep telling you guys a story. When Kariuki Chotara, when it's called Babangida, from Nigeria came to Kenya, he saw Moi, and Moi, now after the niceties at State House, he told Kariuki Chotara, please take this man to the airport. And Kariuki Chotara entered the car together with Babangida, and they went all the way to JKIA. On the way there, Kariuki Chotara says to Babangida, oh, ukienda nyumbani, usalimie Gida na usalimie Mama Gida. When you go home to Ginda, say hi to Gida himself and Ginda's mother. You know? But the thing is, these guys played their role of court jesters. They made the president laugh. Every time Mulu Mutisia or Mark To or Kariuki Chotara entered the president's car, and by the way, Mark To was actually educated. If they entered the president's car or the president's entourage, wherever the president was going,
so their value is providing therapy to the head of state.
They made him laugh. They made him laugh.
The Star.
Yeah.
Why the Mafia could have killed Oko, very strong headline, very strong. However, I think it's a bit of a tenuous link that they failed to, arrive at. Yes. So essentially, this story is trying to dismantle what is known as the Washington theory, which is a story that we all know, that the reason that Oko was supposedly or allegedly murdered stemmed from a disagreement that happened when they went to Washington in 1970, I believe. So some kind of row occurred, and when they came back to Nairobi, that was the end of the relationship.
It was in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s, exactly. So this story is trying to say that, in fact, what was the reason for his death was an Italian man who was brought to Kenya in order to help with the molasses factory in Oku's constituency. And because the Kenyan government apparently was asking for kickbacks, this Italian man got so angry and decided to then kill Oko. That is what I've understood from the link that they're trying to create. And in fact, the use of the word mafia is so misleading, because what happened is that this Italian man was just a convicted criminal. So I think they're just trying to take the Italian link
take it on its way. Also, I think the word mafia is so amorphous on headline, especially to us Kenyan. Might as well be characters in a movie.
Yeah.
What do we think is the winning
It's a good headline. It is, as you know, misleading.
Winning
as it
headline
is.
for me is the Standard.
I
Standard,
agree, the
definitely.
Standard. So the Standard gives us our winning headline, and only the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. And just like the headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to analyze them for you. We ask, is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And finally, is the cartoon effective or just plain lazy?
Yes, and here we have Gadot, and it's a drawing of the global north. All of them are white, and they are seated in a place called the Reach. And you see there is global warming, there is a presentation of global warming, poor countries to suffer the most. And one of the logos, they say, phew. Thank God I was worried sick.
Yeah.
This is what it's telling us is the white men only just care for themselves.
Well, and of course they do, because I mean, reports have shown that the effects of climate change are going to disproportionately affect poorer countries.
Yes.
Yeah, and that by, I think it's 2030, a lot of the extreme poor are going to be living in 49 of the worst, well, they call them hazard-prone countries, a majority of which are in sub-Saharan Africa.
So the powers that be in the global north are going to slow down their interventions because it's just the poor countries that are going to suffer. Who cares? The Daily Nation.
What do we have here?
Is
Daily Nation. Here we have Ndula. And it is what they call a 36 special. It's a revolver. And the barrel of it, it's been covered with elastoplast. And there are rounds of ammunition down there. And the elastoplast comes from a package called IPOA, Independent Policy and Oversight Authority, saying that all they do is cosmetic. And I think this is with regard to extrajudicial killings.
Yes. It says that out of 5,940 cases that have been tried by or submitted to IPOA, as we call it, only 6 have been investigated. Only 6 have resulted in convictions.
That's 0.1% of all those cases. That's incredible.
And I think this is a good cartoon showing, as you're saying, that this is that they're just cosmetic. Putting a plaster is so flimsy in front of a powerful
bullet.
And I think this is regard to what happened at Mama Lucy Hospital when the cop shot that border guy. And I think it is right that cop is being prosecuted right now.
On a complete tangent, do you know that Kenyans are the only people who call this object elastoplast? Because that is the name of the brand, not the name of the object.
I know it's called a Band-Aid. But
Band-Aid is also a brand in America.
It's a bandage.
But here we call it Band-Aid. A lot of you guys will call it Band-Aid, but me and my ilk will call it elastoplast.
What do we have in this star?
Here you have Yusuf Haji, and this is the secretary. What is it called? Is the chair of the BBI committee? And on his so he's steering this thing called BBI. And on his shoulder is a gentleman, because he represents the politicians. And on his left, on his right side is Wanjiko. And Wanjiko is saying, "Make the country more relevant to me." And the gentleman is saying, who's a politician? He's saying, "Keep me more relevant in the country." Well, Celeste, this is your worst cartoon.
Oh my gosh. No, I think it would resonate with a lot of Kenyans.
Well,
it does. I think that's a point at which we've gotten to with BBI. We're like, for who is this?
The truth of the matter is this.
2M is
we all
used
know.
to comedy in the cartoons, not a deep commentary.
Like,
but don't we all know BBI is for politicians?
But then the thing is also now, she's not just putting the politician to the fore, but Haji himself. He should not be conflicted. Ideally, if we're not being realistic, we'll say that Haji, of course, should be representing the people. That is the job he has been given, to go out there and collect views. But of course, he has to answer to the people that commissioned him.
I would even throw it on top.
All right, so on that note.
But the cartoons, in my view, today were not inspiring.
Dry.
Very dry.
They were dry. So no winning cartoon.
Yes.
So what is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. This week, we have been discussing and reviewing Africa's biggest titans in business and industry. And we'll do a review of the entire week. On Monday, we did El Haj Aliko Dangote from Nigeria. On Tuesday, we went all the way to Zimbabwe, and we reviewed Strive Masiyiwa. On Wednesday, we did our very own from Kangema, James Mwangi. Yesterday, Thursday, we decided to go gender. We went to a lady.
We didn't. We just looked at the titans.
Yes, but it's a beautiful thing.
The beer baroness.
The beer baroness, and she's called Tabitha Karanja. And today we did my favorite, or we're doing our favorite, Humphrey Kariuki.
Yeah, I'm going to conclude with Humphrey Kariuki. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, one of our own, Kenyan.
Yeah.
So he is one of Kenya's most elusive businessmen. I think we know this about him. He's notoriously private.
Yeah.
I think even as I was trying to look for his net worth, there's numbers all over the place. It's completely unknown. Some places say a couple $1 billion, others say, billion shillings. So very interesting.
Yeah.
But over the last 3 decades, Kariuki has quietly built his company called Yanis Continental Group into one of East Africa's largest conglomerates while staying very quiet and humble. So he has built a business conglomerate that includes the Hub, which is one of the largest malls we have here in Nairobi.
That's true.
Africa Spirits, one of Kenya's leading manufacturers of alcohol and spirits. Dalbit Petroleum, which is one of the largest oil distributors in East and Southern Africa. Great Lakes Africa Energy, which is a UK-based company that is a developer and operator of power projects in Southern Africa. And these collectively employ over 3,000 Kenyans, but also foreign nationals. He's also the owner of the 5-star Fairmont Mount Kenya Safari Club and the neighboring Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy and Animal Orphanage.
Fantastic.
So he was born in Nyeri County. A lot of interesting people seem to come from Nyeri.
And Muranga.
Okay.
Was a problem.
And he came from a family of 10 siblings. He had 6 brothers and 4 sisters, and he was a last born. And he says that his dad really believed in the power of education, so there was no discrimination between his brothers and his sisters. So he went through O-levels and he went through A-levels, and after finishing his A-levels, he actually went and he got a job at the Central Bank of Kenya. And after working there for some time, he decided to take some time off and go to the UK to be with his sister. And while there, he said that his sister had a car that she'd been trying to sell. And so he tells his sister, why don't I take it to Kenya and try to sell it for you? So he comes to Kenya trying to sell the car, and he says on the back of the car there was a sticker that said City of Norwich, because that's where his sister was living. And so he's driving this car around Nairobi, and one day somebody leaves a note on the car and says, give me a call, I'd like to talk to you. So he calls the man, and the man thinks that he's another Englishman from Norwich. And so he's supposedly also wants to buy a car. So he sells the car to this man at double the price. And so he gives the money to his sister as promised, and then keeps the other half for himself. And then he says, is this how easy it is to make money? Because he doubled his money, and it's incredible.
He had a moment of revelation.
Exactly. And so this is when he, he enters his world of business. And so his next business opportunity came in the restaurant that he started in, the CBD, which was called Green Corner, which I hear was one of the most amazing restaurants.
The best burgers came from there.
Obama would say so himself.
Exactly. Obama in his first book writes about the experiences he had there. And so he says that he took a loan of 300,000 shillings from the bank, which at that time was equivalent to about 1.5 million, and was able to pay it off in 8 months because it was very popular with businessmen and politicians. Right after that, he moves into the importation of alcohol. And I think today we know that company as Wow Beverages. It's one of the biggest importers and retailers of wine.
Wines of the world.
Yeah, wines of the world. But he says at that moment that he realized that some of the global creators of alcohol might be using him as a guinea pig to test what the Kenyan market might look like. So he said, I'm going to do you before you do me. And so he decides to create his own spirits business. And I think one of the most popular ones, I don't know because I don't drink, is known as Blue Moon Vodka. I've seen the bottles around. And he says that according to him, it's one of the most successful.
I saw it in the office.
One of the most successful alcohol businesses in Kenya. We cannot say because we also spoke about Tabitha Karanja yesterday, so we'll stay neutral. But then he also ventured into oil. And today this has left him as one of the most elusive but richest men in Kenya.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Incredible stories.
I've had together with JM, our colleague, the pleasure of meeting him when we went on a work trip to Mozambique. We're doing some research there. And a busy man, we met him in the evening. He was so tired, but he indulged us. And from that one conversation, I personally learned 3 things. The first thing is you have to put in the work and time. Kariuki told us that he's been working relentlessly since he was 19 years old, and he's now 60. So this is a guy who has done his time and has mixed his sweat with the soil, and look where he is now. And I think this is a very valuable lesson for our generation. That gets sucked into the get-rich-quick mentality, especially in business. The second thing is have a nose for opportunity. So, and this reminds me, as I was thinking back on this, it reminds me of all the titles that we have spoken about this week. Strive Masiewa had a nose for opportunity in telecom, so much so that his own government could not even visualize his plan. James Mwangi right here in Kenya also had a nose for opportunity, operating at a time when banking was not open to a very big demographic, and he made innovations that included those people.
Yeah.
Tabitha Karanja, we
Karanja.
spoke about her yesterday,
Fantastic.
spied an opportunity in the beverage industry and offered alternatives to local liquor, cheap and hygienic alternatives to that, and built a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And today, Humphrey Kariuki, very early on, he was in the catering business, as you've mentioned. But the innovation that he injected into it is from his travels. He said he went to see his sister in Norwich. He comes back and he says, you know what, I'm not going to do the usual ugali and matumbo. I'm going to look for a very specific niche, which did open him up to embassies. And he became a sole supplier to the US embassy.
Oh yes, and even the Dutch embassy.
The Dutch embassy and so on and so forth. And thereafter expanded his businesses beyond. Thirdly, do not be confined by geographical borders. Remember, we met him in Mozambique. He was not there on holiday. He was there on business. He was undertaking business over there. And what he told us, he encouraged us to do, is to look at Africa, because there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many uncharted territories, and it doesn't mean that you have to travel, because the internet has also opened borders for us. And he says other countries look at Kenya, other countries in Africa, many other countries look at Kenya as very progressive. So we as Kenyans have that opportunity of looking into the future, because we're in the future now,
in comparison,
and replicating our methods in those countries.
Regions.
It's incredible how other countries welcome him so openly in comparison to how we do.
He's very respected.
When we were in Tanzania last month for the same research project, we were at the central bank, no, rather when I was in Zambia, in fact, we went to the Central Bank of Zambia, and they were telling us how whenever he comes into the country, Humphrey Kariuki, the president stops everything he's doing, clears his schedule, and puts out a red carpet welcoming him into the country, because he knows that he's a visionary and a source of investment. So I think that the Kenyan government, the way that they've treated him, is quite...
there's a saying, prophets are rarely hailed at home. Something to that effect.
Something like that. You know, Humphrey Kariuki describes himself as a first generation serial entrepreneur. Now that means this: I am not earning from daddy's money. I am earning my own money. But I want to go straight to a story that is told from January 2001. 2 billion shillings. Kenya government was so broke. When the moment they saw 2 billion shillings landing in someone's account, they asked, who could afford 2 billion shillings? Then at that time, straight away, his account gets frozen. About 4 or 5 months later, a judge called Justice Samuel Oguk, and he unfroze his account. And before the the Attorney General then was called Amos Wako, what's his name? Humphrey Kariuki withdraws all the money and just leaves 15 million shillings in the account. Now, there were allegations about what he's done, he does this. But then look, this is a man who would offer and cater wines to the US Embassy, to the Dutch Embassy, and also cater for them. Now, he did this so well that the US he called it second secretary, wrote this note to him. He says, "Thank you for the excellent service provided by your staff. I have received numerous compliments about the delicious food and gracious service." Second Secretary Frankie Calhoun. Now look, there is no way that the US Embassy Second Secretary would write to you this kind of note. Why? Because the Second Secretary of each and every single embassy is an intelligence officer. Now, should they know what you do as a person and does not augur well with them in the host country, then there's no possible way that they give you that kind of business. So you're saying they had done due diligence, and there's no way that Kariuki could have been engaged in unscrupulous business as has been alleged. On a day where we had no winning cartoon, but we did have a winning headline from The Standard. I'd like to leave you with this quote from Humphrey Kariuki himself. He says, "In life, you need to start from the bottom. The only place where you start at the top is when you're digging a well." Thank you for joining us. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also on your TV screens on Star Times, Pang Free to Air, and Go TV. Have a good evening and see you on Monday.